And without further ado, I'll pass the mic to Ramon, who's going to be introducing himself and following with this session. Thank you, Ramon, for being here with us.
No, thank you, Eduardo, and everyone of the Bio Summit organizers. I'm really happy to be here and honored. This is my first time. I know we all are excited and maybe now a little bit tired because it's Sunday already. It's quite late. Even for some people, it's maybe like really late at night, or even like I don't know, in Europe or some places. So okay, I hope you still have some energy because I like to bring you to the discussion of this workshop. I really wanted to make a live kind of demonstration like on site, but it was really difficult because internet connection. And then I tried to make some short videos of all we've been doing, and I tested them like yesterday and this morning, and it was so slow when I tried to share them via the internet. So I kind of redesigned the workshop for today because we were kind of discussing yesterday in the Gardens of Ecosystems some, I think, important aspects. So I kind of changed, instead of just showing you like videos of how to build some bioreactor, I think we might want to take a step back and discuss some very nice ideas of biotech and how to provide solutions to climate change and especially to agriculture. Well, I'll talk a little bit about myself. I am Ramon. I live in Mexico, in the central part of Mexico, in the state of Puebla and Veracruz. Right now, well, since the last 1 year, 2 years ago, I decided to go live in a small rural area. I left Mexico City and the university. And the reason is I want to understand the business models in the rural areas, and especially to try to provide value to rural communities and indigenous communities, and how to solve problems in rural areas, in this case in Mexico and the rest of Latin America. I studied a biotechnology degree and also did my master's on earth sciences. I love soil. That's kind of my technical approach. But I will say, like, from 10 years ago, I took like the entrepreneurship kind of approach, left the kind of hard science and learned how to innovate. And I did one, well, I founded one startup in 2014. It gave me a lot of experience and learned how not to do, how not to innovate. I kind of failed with that startup, but now since the beginning of this year, 2020, I'm starting a new project, which I'm going to present right now and show you what we are doing, and then invite you to join us in this effort of this innovation center. So I'm going to share my screen. The idea of this workshop is I'm going to take some minutes to kind of get you into context, and then I want to open a discussion, and then I will share you some open Google documents so we can edit and start working in some objectives that we might want to share. And the idea is that you participate. I want to hear you. I want to discuss, and that's the main idea. So please feel free to do it, and well, you will be welcome. So, okay. Okay, so this new project is called UMICA, Regenera el Planeta, which in Spanish means UMICA, regenerate the planet. Let's see if I can. One thing that I hate in Mexico is the idea of agricultores, of producers, agricultural producers. in Mexico, I don't know if it's the same case of the rest of Latin America or even some other places in the world. When we think about agricultural producers, we start thinking, or the images that come to us is poverty, the ideas of ignorance, the ideas of kind of the least part that we want in our society. And that's not the real agricultor. The real producer knows a lot of stuff. The real producers works harder than anyone. So I really hate that when this morning I just Google Agricultores Mexico, we were listening into the Bio Summit sessions, and I kind of wondered if I Googled right now, what images do I get? And we see this. We see like old people, like poor people, like struggling, using low tech, and why? Why is that? So as I'm presenting my startup, I just hate it when we think about agriculture in Mexico, and we get this. We get poverty, families living in misery. We get these images are so common, like children working, trying to make it through life in rural areas of Mexico. And for example, around 11 million children right now are living in what is called pobreza alimentaria, or food poverty, according to the UN and the children studies of UNICEF. So we need to change that. So every time I think about biotechnology, and remembering all the sessions of yesterday on in this Bio Summit, I started to wonder: is biotech a friend of the natural environment? Can we answer that? Do we have enough information, enough kind of? Are we sure when we answer this question? And there's another one: is biotech a friend of indigenous communities? Is biotech a friend of the poor? So these questions for me are hard to answer. I always wonder when biotech becomes a friend, and maybe biotech sometimes becomes an enemy. So, but when you start to think about the answers, you realize that the problem is not, the problem will be always about people, how using or how designing biotech-based solutions. So in this case, my answer will be, well, only sometimes. It depends of how we design, how we work together into these solutions. So from my point of view, right now, if we can say, like, in general, biotech is very close with monocultures and poor biodiversity solutions. This in an agricultural context. Every time when I kind of read about some controversy about, I don't know, GMOs or biotech, I always hate it when all the kind of industrial context begins, or for example, like the business models start to get like a noise in the discussion, because it's not biotech, it's some other problem. But this is true. Biotech is very close with this kind of work. And my question will be, why? Why are we working only with these agricultural systems of monocultures and poor biodiversity solutions? And also, I kind of find out or kind of look a lot of times that biotech thrives under colonial schemes. So why do we keep working like this? And also, biotech it's a good friend of the rich. So can we change this? So this workshop is mainly an invitation to change our focus and reshape biotech solutions together. I cannot see the chat. Let me see, because I can, well. This is the how to reshape biotech. We at UMICA want to change these monoculture images into something like this. I'm gonna take a step back. This image was provided to us by our design kind of project of the, we kind of develop all our commercial images of our logo, the name, and they provide us like these cool images for our presentations. But when I looked at them, I went like, this is a monoculture. I really don't like it. I mean, I understand why it becomes like really, I don't know, commercially available everywhere. But I want to use biotechnology tools to start working in this kind of environment, kind of agricultural systems that I'm gonna talk a little bit more about them. So who are we? We're a Mexican startup in the Sierra of Puebla, and we focus on regenerative agriculture. What do we do? We are creating, or we create, expand the jungle and the forest while producing food ingredients, high quality food ingredients. And this is very important because our food production systems are the main drivers of biodiversity loss, of in general environmental damages, and even our food production systems are one of the main drivers of climate change. So our name and concept of UMICA shares the same Latin root from human. That is the being, or in Spanish is el ser, that comes from the soil or from the ground. And also soil humus is the most important organic substance that is present in the soil and not only provides soil fertility, but also sustains life in the whole planet. So we want to take this concept and make it in the center of our objectives. Our startup goals: we seek to transform monocultural agrosystems into agroproductive models that can sequester CO2, regenerate soil, sorry for my pronunciation, I'm kind of nervous, biodiversity and water systems. Also, we want to facilitate end consumers to shop for healthy and in this case, food ingredients that can regenerate the earth. And this, in this case, will be examples of citrus. We focus a lot of in citrus, oranges, limes, coffee, honey, vanilla, bamboo. And now, the last 10 years in my area, we have become to growers of lychees, also some lemongrass and teas. And it's essential to increase profits and cash flow models for local producers. This is very important. When we design solutions, we have to start thinking about the producers, in this case, local producers or indigenous people, or the base of the pyramid in which we all are based in the world, or all our food is produced by local small stakeholders. And we must work with them. And we have to design biotech tools that can provide financial certainty and lower the risk of these producers. This is very important. So we are working with a UMICA model. We call it UMICA, Modelo UMICA, or UMICA model. And we are based in soil biotech, biochar also, and systems of agroecology and agroforestry. Okay, I'm looking at the questions.
Yeah, we do have a question from Eugene. Eugene, what, can you unmute yourself and maybe ask your question? If it's a problem, it's okay also.
No, yeah, sure. I want everyone to keep asking, and yes,
perfect.
It's very important.
It would be nice hearing from you, Eugene, if you can, or if you can't, you can let us know in the chat. Well, I'm not sure Eugene is listening to us. Are you there, Eugene?
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah, perfectly.
Sorry, I was just getting my
Hello.
mic set up. I was curious if you could define restore or regenerative agriculture. I don't really know much about this field, so I don't understand how it's regenerating or rejuvenating or whatever.
Sure. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later on as we kind of get into the details. But I can give you like a whole picture of this new approach. The main idea is like we produce food and we kind of put the soil in the center. And by doing that, we start understanding that as we work the soil in a healthy way, we can store carbon from the atmosphere. That means we can take enough carbon from the atmosphere and become a tool to reverse climate change. That's one main objective. The other one is to provide the bio solutions, or in this case, biofertilizers or biodiversity into the soil by microbes, mycorrhizal fungi, and that gives the soil, in this case, agricultural damaged lands or damaged soils that have been overused by chemical fertilizers or agrochemicals in general. You can restore life into those soils. So that's biodiversity, especially in the soil. And also, by working with soil organic matter, you can increase almost by 8-fold, even more, the capacity of water holding capacity of the soil. So that increases the water system in every agricultural kind of landscape. So
this is a very broad approach, actually. You're restoring the landscape. You want biodiversity. You also want to produce food, and you also want to restore the soil health. Okay, that's right. Big.
That's right. I'm gonna share with you some other materials that you can, like in your own time after the Bio Summit, you can check. Right now in Netflix, there's a great soil story documentary that you can look up. You maybe want to watch it later on. It's available in Netflix, and it talks about the soil as the center of this kind of systems all over the world. So there's a question that I saw also.
Yes, I guess Diana also has a question. Diana, are you able to unmute yourself and maybe share your question with us?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, first of all, congrats, Ramon, because you gave a great talk. Well, my question is, how do you approach rural communities to work with them if you do? Because sometimes it can be difficult to work with rural communities that have their own traditions, their own practices, and sometimes they will not be so open to something new regarding to agriculture.
I have two answers to that question. Thank you, Diana. It's a great answer. Also, I looked at your project. It's very, very good. I loved it. Okay, two answers. It's really hard. It's really difficult. It's not. There's no like a cooking recipe. You must understand the community dynamics everywhere you are. So it's different. For example, right now or the last 5 years in the place where I work, it has been really difficult to work with the community. Why? Because I am in the state of Puebla, just next to Veracruz, which is in the Gulf part of Mexico. And that's the kind of highway to the north. And there's a lot of drug trafficking. So there's a lot of insecurity for the last, let's say, 10 years. And it has increased in a levels that you will be like, my God, I cannot believe it. And COVID-19, it has been for us like a relief in that matter. Sorry to say that, but but it has been like that. The insecurity has lowered for the last, let's say, 7 months a lot. So working here with the community is very hard. The people do not trust anyone. If you are looked like foreign people or somebody an outsider, everybody will go like, who is that? And maybe you might be in great danger. So it's not easy. But my other answer, the thing that I'm working right now, is a business model. That's my kind of key answer. How can we design, or how can we use biotech to design like inclusive business models? And I'm going to talk a little bit about it right now. I'm not finished with my presentation. Just I wanted to hear from you, and I'm going to give an example with an orange juice to show you how inequality and how. Let's show you. And there's another question or comment just before I resume the presentation.
I guess
I have another
Eugene.
question.
Yeah.
Sure.
This might, if it goes too long, it's fine if we come back to it. But I was wondering, so your slides so far look like they're meant to improve the biodiversity on farms and places that have already overgrown plants and depleted the soil. What about other areas? I thought of this because you said soil erosion. And what about other areas where it wasn't originally for farmland, things like city parks or the areas next to highways, which no one lives in, and it's just cars driving by, no one's maintaining the plants? Is this something that could improve biodiversity around there? Is this something that's even useful to try to do around there? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, definitely. The answer is yes. There are a lot of projects, initiatives that want to, all these lands, even parks, even urban gardening right now in 19 context. There's a lot of projects that have kind of start thriving, start like emerging, like to provide you with really easy tools, like you in your garden can produce the food for your family and start sucking up some CO2 from the atmosphere and bury it permanently in your soil. So yes, there's a lot of, I mean, kind of designs that we can create, and exactly that's the reason why I'm inviting you to co-found all these Open Innovation Center. So I'll resume to these ideas later on. Okay, I'm sharing my screen again. Let's get it done. Okay. Okay. So another important thing, it's we are working with Agrophi Designs. That one new kind of approach that I just learned just some months ago. That is, it's from Brazil. Some of you might heard it before. There is syntropic agriculture, or in Spanish is agricultura sintrópica. It's great. For me, it is like it's so new for me, and I want to learn a lot. What is the idea of this kind of agriculture? Is can you design like crop systems or like plantations of orchards in the jungle, in the forest, and there are a lot of techniques that are so much like mind-blowing. So I invite you to Google the concept, but and also we'll share with you some videos of these kind of systems. I wanted to show you like in on-site what we are doing. I have pictures, but I wanted to show you a video. It's not working very well, but I'll try to do it as we finish the workshop. So, okay, in our startup, we're working with 3 main components. The first one is the design and implementation of technical agro solution. And in biotech, is kind of easy to see how it would provide value here. You know, like biofertilizers, like bacteria, like fungi, even some GMOs with special crops. I mean, we can design technical solutions. That's kind of easy to see how biotech can provide value here. But then there's another one that I will invite you to start thinking how biotech can provide value in this second one. We have to understand or have to design commercialization of agro products and provide or add value, like for example, drying, packing, freeze drying, and a lot of other examples that I will like you to start thinking of. What this second kind of a component is I'm going to give an example of what I mean by this component. And also, there's the third main component. We are starting to develop an agrocarbon market in Latin America. The main issue here is how can we design, again, kind of a carbon credit market that is the benefits or the producers, the communities, are the main drivers and the main kind of beneficiaries of these markets. Because if you look at right now, the carbon credit markets, it's not the communities that are getting all the value. So I'm gonna share with you an orange juice story. This just happened like 2 weeks ago, and yesterday I gathered some other information for this story. This juice, I took this picture, I think like last Tuesday, I think. So the story started when I went to harvest some oranges in the place where I work. So, okay, let's go harvest some nice oranges. And I asked my 2 companions, so let's go with me. And they answered to me, let's get it done. Okay, so we went. I took my small pickup and get like a ton of oranges. I went to this site, and this is like one local, how will you call it? Like in this site, you get all the oranges, you put it in these ramps, you let it go, and they start like concentrate all the fruit, and they take that fruit, they put it in large trucks, and these large trucks go to maybe Mexico City, or maybe to one export company, or goes to the state of Veracruz, where they have the juguera, which is like, I think it's like 10 large companies from overseas that are making orange juice and like a citrus-derived product. So this is kind of what I did, and this is one thing that I want you to start thinking about. So we harvested around 1.1 metric ton of oranges and brought them to the local trade center. And I sold that metric ton of oranges for around 1,210 pesos. That is roughly $50. Huh? Yes. That kind of 1 ton is around all the oranges you can see in the images, and the remaining in the truck. That's around $50. So for me, it's like really sad, because that day I just took some gas in the gas station, and that just cost me $28. So one harvest of, in this case, 1 ton, when you have to work with the community has to pay maybe some like harvesters, and how much money do you think they have left to pay for workforce if 1 ton costs $50? So and the hard part is to go back to your truck, see those size, and they tell you, doesn't seem like a great business to us. Well, no, it is not. To keep with the orange juice example, keep this in mind. You need around 1 kilogram of oranges. That will be like roughly 6 oranges to produce 2 glasses of orange juice. I did this exercise with my mother, and we came with this number. So roughly, there's around 2,000 glasses of orange juice that you can produce with 1 metric ton of oranges. So if you think about it, I did this exercise this week, and I just took like rough numbers of how much a glass of orange juice cost. Just right around the corner in a street, kind of like a Mexican cart, where you can buy a fresh orange juice. It costs around 12 Mexican pesos or half a dollar. In our urban restaurant in Mexico, it costs around 35 pesos. That is around $1.6. And I asked my brother, he lives in Germany, and hey, how much is an orange juice in the restaurant you go or you used to go just before the pandemic? And he told me, well, in Spain, it's around $2.3. In here in Germany, you can find it around $4.6. So I understand this. This is clear to me that you expect that it will cost more as the value chain kind of gets larger, because I understand that the price needs to go up as it goes from the retailer, like the export company, like even in the truck service, and etc., and even in the restaurant in Europe. So I understand this, but the part that I do not understand is this one. So, oh well, sorry. If we multiply like the cost of this orange juice for what it takes, like 1 metric ton of 2,000 glasses of orange juice, you will get these numbers. So again, I understand those numbers because the value chain has grown bigger. But the thing that I do not understand is this one. Those 2,000 glasses of orange juice that you might get from a metric ton in Mexico that I sold for 1,100 Mexican pesos or $50, then that means that how much value goes to the producer. So if we make the comparison for the shop around the corner in Mexico, just 4.58% of the value of the orange juice is the one that got it of the producer. I don't know if you get these numbers. Sorry for my English. Let's say it. Let's rephrase it again. If you get like 2,000 glasses of orange juice from a metric ton, but you sold it for around 1,000 pesos, which is $50. Then if you do the exercise and try to understand how much value the producer got from those hypothetical glasses of orange juice, then you get this number. Less than 5% of the value, if we compare it for the value that the local shop around the corner got from the orange juice. And you compare the value of the orange juice in a local or urban restaurant, then the producer just got 157% of the value of the orange juice. And that obviously becomes lower as the value chain gets in the end. So with this just orange juice example, you get that only around less than 1% to less than 5% of the value remains with the producer. And the question is this fair? Who is risking more? The producer has to look at for a year. You harvest this like in a yearly manner. You have to look for your oranges. You have to work the soil. You have to expect that you have plenty of rain. You have to look for pests. You have to work a lot just to get less than 5% of the value. That is not fair. That's impossible. That's not sustainable. And we live like that. So you wonder why all Mexicans try to go to the US and leave their lands behind and try to find a job in another place. Well, this is one reason, because all the value is not in the producer, it's not in the land, it's not in the field. So let's use biotech tools to help producers, communities, indigenous people to obtain more value for their agro products. This is so important. Remember, this is kind of one example of one system in which we work. Think about a matrix, the matrix. If you can see this forest, it's just DNA. It's just DNA information exchanging in the soil, in the branches, with all the biodiversity on it. So if we start to looking this information and start working as a community, biohacker community, we can provide tools and kind of provide value to producers, like for example, these orange or citrus producers. So this is our invitations for you or to you. Let's co-create or co-found Biotech or Climate Change Mitigation Open Innovation Center. So the dynamics of this workshop is, I thought about 30 to 45 minutes to have an open discussion, to set main objectives, and then provide ideas of biotech solutions or even business models. And maybe just before we start doing this, I just wanted to show you some things that I kind of wanted to share with you. I did some recording, some videos, but they are not working very well. So we will just lose time. So I just took these pictures. So the main idea for you that are not very familiar with these agricultural systems is that, let me see if I can use the, sorry, I'm gonna stop. Well, I'm gonna open some questions, then I'm gonna show you more images. I just want to be able to kind of point out where is in the image I'm explaining. So let's hear from you. I did not read the questions of the chat or the comments, so maybe you can start talking about all this. Yes, Caroline, go ahead.
Hey, Ramon, I really appreciate the sentiments that you're bringing forward. And your orange to orange juice analogy also makes me think about carbon sequestering and the value that indigenous lands have in terms of their contribution to holding carbon for the rest of the earth, and in terms of whether the forests that remain intact in some of these countries deserve the same kind of value proposition in terms of what they're contributing to the world. Do you see any like analogies between that and your orange kind of thing?
Sure. Sometimes I took my video off because I want to get the bandwidth to listen to you perfectly. So yeah, yes, thank you, Caroline. Great question. Yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do with the carbon market. We want to provide the tools of how the producer can sequester a certain amount of carbon from the atmosphere in certain time. Obviously, we want to make it like a yearly kind of scheme. Just this month, this past month, or maybe it was in October or I think it was September, the United Nations, they got this kind of a methodology to measure and monitor the carbon that we can sequester in agriculture. So we can use those tools. I'm going to share all of them with you and start measuring how much carbon can we store in these kind of systems. But the thing here is how can we design the business model in which this value stays with the community? That's
Absolutely.
the key question.
Yeah. That's
And,
the key. Yeah.
and it's not an easy answer
Mhm.
because there are a lot of stakeholders, a lot of variables, etc., etc. So, but we are here. That's the reason we should get together and start thinking and get creative. How can we use our knowledge to get the value and stays with the community, with the producers, and make it a little bit more fair. You're in business, in the business world, you are supposed to, like, even as your risk gets higher, your reward supposed to be higher. So this doesn't happen in agriculture. The greater the risk, the lower the value for the producer. So
yeah, because I see like what you're talking about is almost two issues, because I really like that you're expressing that biotech is for the rich and is being used by the rich countries to, in effect, extract even more resources out of whether it's cells or land or whatever it is. So there's that issue of biotech being used for the rich, but there's also the issue of the business model and how we understand relations of exchange. And sometimes those two are separate, and sometimes those two issues overlap, I think, with biotech and what is value exchange.
Definitely, I completely agree. That's why I wanted to have this discussion, and we are kind of the reshapers of this reality. And I like to think that, and sometimes even we can take that responsibility as a community, as people that have like a background in science and technology. We can make it happen. So sorry, I want to like have some activities. So the first one is so I'm gonna share with all of you in the chat this link to a Google form. In this Google form, you can type your information, and we get this database with all your contact information and start like working together to create this Open Innovation Center. So please join that Google form and put your info right there so we can share it later on with all the community. And also, I prepare a Jamboard in Google so we can work a little bit right now with ideas of the objectives of this innovation center that you would like to share and work with. I divided the Jamboard. I'm gonna share my screen right now. So I just wrote the link so you can join me here. Please tell me if it, I left it open for everyone, so I think you will have no problem. So we have 3 different screens. So the first one is so we can work some sort of general objectives. Like we can use biotech or this Open Innovation Center. What do we want to achieve as a community? What do we want to help? I'm thinking especially with the agricultural sector, with the communities and producers. What will be our general objective? That's in this part of the document. In the second one is the ideas for community biotech and agro solutions. And I love if you can share what ideas do you see happening right now, or maybe even we can design in the future. I have some of my own, but I would love to hear more from you. And also, oh sorry, I didn't change this. Let me change it right now. Ideas for business models. In this case, community business models that we can design, that we can work. again, I will take like another hour to explain what we are doing, and because it's quite complex in this business model where we are designing right now. So I love to share all these ideas with you. I love to have like this Open Innovation Center kind of going on. So right now I'm gonna open again the microphone, listen to you, and we can work right now with this Jamboard, or even later on after the Bio Summit. So let's hear about you again. You have questions, comments? I did not read the comments in the chat, sorry. So you wanna share, you wanna discuss? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think Eugene makes some other interesting comments, and also Scott, and then Forum had a question. I don't know, can you share it and maybe unmute yourself, Forum?
Hi, am I audible?
Hello?
Hello, yes, am I audible to you?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I was just reflecting on a comment by another group member who were talking about that perhaps we're talking here about two different problems. And I was wondering whether biotechnology is more as a tool, and then with the entire orange juice situation, Ramon highlighted a specific problem in the agricultural sector. And does biotechnology as a technological tool really have a solution to offer to this, or are we sort of, just because that is one of our expertise areas, trying to force that solution to fix into a specific problem? So that is something also that we need to perhaps think on an existential basis, rather than trying to force fit things just because we know this aspect and then the other aspect.
Thank you so much for this comment. I told, like, at the beginning of this workshop, that I in 2014 I started one company called Biotecnología Mexicana, Mexican Biotechnology. So that exactly happened to me. I became so in love with my technology that I wanted to sell it everywhere. What I was working with is, we designed biofertilizers that can sequester carbon from the atmosphere. So that's nice. That's okay. That's cool. But when I wanted to design the business model, I committed the mistake you are talking about. I wanted to look where I can sell my technology instead of understanding the problems, instead of understanding the needs of communities, or in this case, maybe even customer segments. So you are perfectly correct that we need to understand the problems before. We need to understand the needs of the community, and that's why I wanted to start this this document, because if we start to think about the problems, we then can design community business models that can help or can integrate the community, and then they start getting value from the tools that we can provide, in this case, biotech tools. So we have to kind of sometimes change our minds, that because it sounds like a duh thing, like of course, yeah, it's obvious, but no, it's not. When we go out from the university, when we go out maybe even from this kind of projects, or so excited about biotech, we want to use our knowledge everywhere. And no, let's take a step back and think, What's the problem?
Exactly.
What?
So perhaps while trying to understand this problem more deeply, there is also a possibility that perhaps biotechnology is not at all a solution to this problem and something else is needed. For example, in one of an innovation project I worked earlier, the government had a problem of providing 100% institutional delivery of blood wherever it's needed. And then they always thought that because you have less number of ambulances or delivery systems, that you cannot able to provide blood at the right time at the right place, and they kept increasing the number of vehicles, but that never solved the problem. Only at the end to realize with design thinkers that the problem was with the address system and not the vehicle system.
Okay.
So because the address locations weren't specific enough for people to reach there at the right time at the right place. And so the solution provided was to have an alternative addressing system for that specific town or village and not increasing the number of vehicles. So my point to just say was that perhaps biotech has a solution, but when we start up with such complex problems, there is also a possibility that there is no solution that this technology can provide at all.
Sure. And thank you for your remarks. Of course, it's a great kind of insight, and that's why it's called an innovation center.
Sure.
The innovation part of it kind of starts with understanding the problem. How can we design solutions just based on what we learn? We have to make like customer discovery techniques. We have to develop these lean startup methodologies, and that's very important. Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
So we only have 5 minutes. If you want to keep sharing your ideas, or I just show you just like the images of the things that we are working with, and just really quickly. So feel free to speak. Okay. So the idea we are working right now at UMICA, we have to design these systems that solves the community problems. What is the main problem? The access to high quality markets and the money, how you call it in English, is flujo de efectivo, is cash flow for the producer. Every producer wants to find a crop system that delivers them cash flow. Even it sounds crazy, but but it's true. The producer is not for the most profitable business. Is looking for the one that gave them the more certainty in the short term. So they look for cash flow every time. So that's why we are designing these systems in which we can produce a lot of, in the same area, in the citrus orchards, we can produce a lot of different products. For example, honey, we can use also these beans in the ground as a cover crop, and they can sell also the beans or use it as feedstock for the cattle. Or even we can also plant some bamboo in the kind of the outside areas of the orchard, so they can get biomass, and or maybe for their houses. That depends of what kind of problem the producer has. So we are designing a lot of systems. In this case, we are using this bamboo to produce the biochar and the biofertilizer. That then we are using these bioreactors. I'm going to share with you the information in which we kind of like in an open system, in an open knowledge system, produce the biofertilizer and get high quality citrus trees. So all of this is being done in a rural area of Mexico in the central part. I'm going to share with you all this data, information, and whoever wants to keep working with this and wants to collaborate, feel free to contact me. And well, this is one example of honey we're getting from these citrus orchards. This kind of regenerative honey that we are now selling like in the local areas. We are now starting to have this brand and start to sell it in the over the website. And this is kind of a gourmet product, like honey, vanilla, or vanilla honey. We are using also vanilla beets that are being grown within the citrus trees. And this costs, like right now, 1 kilogram of vanilla is around, I think, 500. It's around 10,000 pesos. So it's it's a high quality product right now. And just finally, this is important, this kind of biodiversity is in the local area. So every time we produce or we take or we consume an orange juice of this kind of system, we save one of these. So thank you so much. And well, this is it. Thank you.
Wow, Ramon, this has been amazing. Thank you very, very much for sharing this with us. I see you have your contacts there. I don't know if you could tell people what's the best way to find you or to reach out to continue collaborating and discussing. Maybe we could put your email here on the chat. I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, right. And also of course we have Slack and the other channels. But thank you very much. I know you prepared a lot. We now have access to the Jamboard, so I really encourage people to continue proposing ideas there. I think that could be an interesting way, right, to keep discussing and building on what you brought to us. Thank you very much for sharing that. We are just on time for our closing session now with everyone. So, wow, I can only say thank you. This has been enlightening. I mean, I also learned a lot about this regenerative agriculture. As Eugene pointed out at some point, it wasn't a clear concept for me, for example. So personally, it's been interesting. Yeah, thank you very much.
No,
Thank you,
all.
Ramon. Thank you.
Thank you all. I want to keep sharing in the Slack all this information about everything. Like so, please stay alert. Thank you.